Let me start with something that sounds fake, but isn't. Paul Dirac once said that the laws of nature should be beautiful, and he meant that literally, not poetically. Not beautiful like sunsets or symmetry. Beautiful like clean, spare, inevitable. And here's the uncomfortable part. Every time Dirac trusted beauty over common sense, the universe eventually backed him up. New particles appeared, new rules emerged, reality quietly rearranged itself to match his math. Dirac barely spoke. He didn't persuade people. He didn't explain himself very well. He just wrote things down and waited. So the real question isn't who was Paul Dirac? It's this. What kind of universe rewards someone who refuses to compromise with human intuition? Paul Adrian Maurice Dirac was born in 1902 in Bristol, England, into a home where silence wasn't awkward. It was enforced. His father, Charles Dirac, was a strict Swiss immigrant and school teacher who insisted that his children speak only French at home. Paul struggled with the language. The result wasn't fluency, it was withdrawal. Dirac learned early that speaking invited correction. Silence did not. He wasn't emotionally expressive. He wasn't performative. He didn't rebel. He optimized inward. By the time he reached university, Dirac had developed a personality that felt less like introversion and more like insulation. People weren't avoided out of fear. They were avoided because they were inefficient. Dirac studied engineering first, then mathematics, and finally physics. Not because he was chasing prestige, but because math offered something humans didn't. No ambiguity, no implied meanings, no social penalties for precision. In mathematics, saying exactly what you mean is not rude, it's required. This wasn't a coping mechanism, it was alignment. Dirac didn't retreat into numbers because he disliked the world. He retreated because numbers didn't distort themselves when observed. The physics world Dirac entered was chaotic, theoretical, and competitive. Einstein was rewriting reality with dramatic thought experiments. Bohr argued philosophy into physics. Later, Feynman would turn genius into performance. Physics was becoming a personality sport. Dirac didn't play. While others debated interpretation, Dirac asked a different question. Does the math actually behave? Quantum mechanics worked, but it was ugly. Relativity was elegant, but incomplete. Most physicists tolerated the mess. Dirac refused to live inside it. Dirac's defining belief was dangerously simple. If the mathematics is beautiful, it is more likely to be true. This is not how science is supposed to work. Nature does not promise elegance. Reality has no obligation to be legible. But Dirac wasn't guessing. He believed beauty wasn't aesthetic, it was structural. Messy equations weren't deep, they were unfinished. And he was willing to be wrong about that. In 1928, Dirac tried to merge quantum mechanics with Einstein's special relativity. The resulting equation worked too well. It described electrons perfectly, but it also produced extra solutions, negative energy states. Instead of discarding them as nonsense, Dirac did something quietly radical. He trusted the math more than experience. If the equation allowed something, then maybe nature did too. That implication was horrifying. It meant the existence of antimatter. Not metaphorical opposites, actual particles with opposite charge and identical mass. Physics had never seen this. Dirac didn't care. This is where Dirac stops feeling like a genius and starts feeling like a glitch. Because most scientists discover things by looking harder. Dirac discovered things by refusing to look away from uncomfortable math. He didn't celebrate antimatter. He didn't dramatize it. He just left space for reality to catch up. And then, years later, it did. That's not creativity. That's nerve. In 1932, Carl Anderson experimentally discovered the positron. The universe had produced Dirac's particle. The equation wasn't wrong. Reality had been incomplete. This wasn't a triumph scene. Dirac didn't change. No victory speeches, no emotional release, just confirmation. And confirmation, to Dirac, was enough. Dirac won the Nobel Prize in Physics in 1933. He hated public speaking. He disliked explaining ideas verbally. He resisted metaphor. When forced to lecture, he delivered content with extreme literalism. People often mistook this for coldness. It wasn't. Dirac simply didn't believe understanding should be negotiated. If something was true, it didn't need charm. Dirac answered questions exactly as asked. If someone phrased a question poorly, he'd remain silent. Not to be rude, but because the input was malformed. Once, when told that an explanation was not clear, Dirac replied, "There is no confusion in the mathematics." To him, ambiguity wasn't depth, it was noise. Later in life, Dirac became fascinated with numerical coincidences in the universe, especially large constants that seemed mysteriously related. His large numbers hypothesis suggested these patterns pointed to deeper laws. They didn't. This matters because Dirac wasn't protected from error by his philosophy. Beauty guided him, but it didn't guarantee success. What it guaranteed was honesty. Dirac's life doesn't resolve. There's no emotional arc, no transformation, no human warmth added at the end. He remained opaque, and yet his work sits at the foundation of modern physics. That contradiction lingers. Dirac feels modern in an unsettling way. He resembles people who communicate best through systems, not speech, who care more about internal consistency than external approval, who don't perform relatability. The difference? Most of us don't get experimental validation from the universe. Dirac did. Dirac leaves you with a subtle discomfort. Maybe meaning isn't always accompanied by feeling. Maybe beauty isn't decorative. Maybe it's diagnostic. And maybe the universe doesn't reward empathy or clarity. Maybe it rewards precision. What stays with me about Dirac isn't brilliance. It's indifference. Not to truth, but to recognition. He didn't need agreement. He didn't need understanding. He needed alignment. And when alignment happened, he stopped. There is something eerie about a person who never asked to be seen and still changed how we see everything. Paul Dirac believed that if an equation was beautiful enough, reality would eventually agree. And disturbingly often, it did.